Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. My name's Ilan and I'm joined by my lovely mate and lovely co-host, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, just very keen to kind of get into this episode. So, as the title suggests, we will be speaking about some of the life lessons, 6 life lessons in total that we've learnt over the last 5-6 years of being out of school. Some of the things that have just stuck with us related to, general life, academics, just life shit, that sort of thing. And we thought it'd be a kind of a great opportunity to just go into a little bit of depth about each lesson. So yeah, really keen.
Yeah, really keen. I think a lot of the listeners will be able to see things from, more so a perspective of like, okay, we don't want to sound too preachy or anything like that, but I hope these lessons sound a little bit authentic. Try to make them as authentic as we can make them, because these are the types of things that I would have loved to have been taught and told when I was in that position of just finishing school. So hopefully people relate and enjoy, and I think they will. So let's get into it, guys. I'm going to kick it off by asking Ilan, mate, what is one key life lesson that you've learnt since finishing school?
Definitely one life lesson that I'm trying to adhere to is the idea of not getting involved in stupid drama. Because when I was in school, I felt like I would get myself involved in some stupid petty argument, some petty gossip, intentionally or unintentionally even, and it would just drain my energy. And, when you finish school, you realize you've got to start getting things in order. And there's nothing worse than a situation like a dramatic fight with friends that you don't need, that they don't need, but it somehow just, takes you off your path of productivity. And, whether it's from an energy perspective, it's just worth getting rid of those people.
Just draining. And yeah, you said dramatic, and they always seem to be more dramatic than what it should be. It's always those petty arguments that are just not worth anyone's time. And yeah, you realize that there are so many bigger things to worry about in life. And, I understand, like in, the schoolyard, like people talk smack and, I know I definitely took things to heart in particular at that age, as I'm sure you did too. So yeah, there's that tendency to just always just be around like petty rubbish.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. I suppose what I mean is like I would just get involved in what you would see in those like stupid high school movies where you would just get involved in some sort of drama, get into an argument with someone. And, again, it wasn't necessarily that it was intentional, but there were times where I knew that I could have just avoided that.
Yeah.
And I would tell myself, you're an idiot for getting involved in that sort of situation. You could have just avoided it in the first place. So now I'm trying to make a concerted effort, and I think I have pretty well, is that I try to not get involved in arguments, fights. I like to be the person who hears about the argument, believe me. Don't mind a little bit of gossip. I don't want to be involved in the gossip, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, well, I think once you finish school, you kind of tend to be around people, maybe more so like less in packs as you would in a schoolyard. Like schoolyard's very pack environment. There's like 15 people around you at one time. One person says something, everyone else laughs, and you kind of feel like stepping away from that time period might be a little bit difficult, because it's like, oh, who's this guy thinking that he's better than us, stepping away from us in school. But yeah, I think it's like, I think that there's a bit of that in it. Like there's something in it in terms of like just being in a group scenario, pack scenario, and you don't have much of that once you're out of school. Like you still got your friendship group, but you would like to think that friendship group is a little bit more maybe stable, and you're not going to be having all those nitty gritty, petty bullshit type arguments, hey?
Well, yeah, and look, for the sake of not trying to sound too preachy, the one thing I will say is you want to be selective of who your friends are, because I promise you that will be one of the biggest predictors of whether you end up in some sort of dramatic crap where they pull you into their drama and their gossip, and you end up in a situation where, you were stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. So again, you got to be proactive with who you pick as your friends, and you also might have to cut certain people out of your life or spend less time with them, because as you get older, as you get more responsibilities, the last thing you have time for is getting involved in drama.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what's one life lesson you've learned?
Yeah, well, I can kind of I can kind of mention this one based off what we've just discussed from your life lesson. So your life lesson was obviously not getting involved in drama. Mine, lesson number one, don't play victim. Don't have a victim mindset, okay? Don't play the victim card, no matter how big or small the situation may be. I felt that once I freed and liberated my brain from not playing victim, life just became that much more peaceful, right? Whether it's rejection from someone that you're interested in, or rejection from a job, or even just like experiencing some grief or loss, or getting injured in the gym or sport, whatever it may be, so often we're so inclined to turn to ourselves and say, of course this happened to me. Of course I get injured. Of course that girl didn't fancy me. Of course I burnt my toast, or of course that bird shat on my shoulder today. Like, it's so easy to just play that victim card. And I think playing that victim card is really just stroking your ego, right? Because when something is unfavorable, your ego probably doesn't like it. And playing that victim card and saying, why me? Of course it's me, is just like giving that ego of yours a little bit of a hug.
Don't you reckon it completely just absolves you of the responsibility though? So it's like, if you're playing the victim card, it means you can't take responsibility for any of the things that have happened to you, even if it is directly your fault.
I think that's a different type of mentality, because it's not to say that you're not taking responsibility for things that are happening to you, but it's just saying when things might be unfavorable to you, you shouldn't use that as an excuse to not try again.
Yep.
Or to not maintain your true character in that moment, right? It's because, like I said, it's very easy to just spit the dummy, throw the towel in and say, yep, this is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it, and just get angry about it and not move forward from there.
So are you coming more from a place of, when something does hit the fan, don't make it a bigger deal than it has to be. Just accept that it's happened and find a way, and find the best way you can to just move on, and don't let it have an impact. Because you're saying the whole victimhood mentality is that it will hold you back from doing the things that you need to do and that you want to do.
100%. I think life is is. Life is full of isness. And what I mean by that is things just happen. They don't happen to you. Sometimes they don't even happen for you. It's a very positive outlook, and sometimes I believe an unrealistic outlook to believe that things are always happening for you, like everything happens for a reason. Like, it's a nice mantra to live by, and you can take a lot of positivity from that. But I also think that sometimes that can be a dangerous outlook, as it can be sometimes overly positive and perhaps unrealistic, because sometimes things don't necessarily happen for you, nor do they happen to you. Sometimes things just happen.
I actually disagree. I think the whole idea that when things happen for you isn't necessarily saying that it's happened for a reason. I think it's just a good mental hack to use to say, okay, this is either happening to me or for me. If you frame it as, this is happening for me. Suppose you're driving in your car. Or let's use the bird shitting on your shoulder example. I love that one. Say you're walking in the park and a bird shits on your shoulder. You say, why is this happening to me? Or the alternative is, okay, this is happening for me. What could this possibly be teaching me? Is it teaching me to be patient, to try and take control of my anger? Is it to maybe laugh at it? What can this situation teach me? I think when you start saying, what can this teach? If this situation is happening for me, it forces your mind to start coming up with ideas of how you could potentially benefit from that situation.
Exactly.
And our human mind can actually find weird ways of rationalizing really shit things and thinking, what's a positive lesson I can learn out of that? And very hyper successful people tend to do that.
It can. But then again, I think your point there about the bird crapping on your shoulder really just, I think, nails my point even more so, because like, I don't think that bird crapping on your shoulder is happening for you. I just don't believe it is. And again, it's a nice mantra to uphold, because maybe there's something you could take away from it. But look, I think the fact of the matter is, it just happened. Sometimes things just happen. They don't happen to you. They don't happen for you. They just happen. And that gave me a lot of peace in realizing that, yeah, not everything's about you, mate. Like, things just happen in life, and you should just take that in your stride and face it in that moment and be present, and then learn how to respond, because that's the key in these scenarios, is how you respond. Things will happen. Unfavorable things will happen. You will experience crap times. We've all experienced crap times, and it's about the response that really dictates your character. And not playing victim. That's the key lesson I've learned from not playing victim, is that just accepting the moment and focusing on your response.
Well, it's interesting there, because the last thing you want to do is develop learned helplessness, that you can't really take control of your situation. And I think that's one thing as humans we all do have, and we do have free will. We do have control, and it's great to exercise it and not go into that kind of mindset.
I think just because sometimes, just to add, I think as humans, and especially as curious people, we always want to find a reason as to why something is happening. We always think, okay, this is happening because of a reason. But sometimes I think it's not. Sometimes I think things just happen. And that was the most liberating thing for me, is realizing things just happen sometimes just because. So crack on, carry on, and worry about the rest of your day.
Jeremy, you're on a bit of a roll, so how about you go 2 for 2?
Alrighty.
What's
next
another lesson?
one? So, life lesson 1, don't play victim. Life lesson number 2 I learned, be patient. Be patient. This is one that I reckon applies more so to what I'm experiencing currently in life, whether it is relationship, jobs, whatever it may be. Just be patient. Trust that what you're doing, if what you're doing is, favorable and upholding your true value and character, trust that what you're doing will get the results eventually that you're hoping for it to get. And that's not to say go into life with expectations and to always put a timeline on something. Rather, it's erasing a timeline, getting timelines out of your head, and just focusing on the moment that you're in, and focusing on what you can do in that moment that is working towards building something greater for you in the future, hopefully. Okay? So whether it's like this podcast, for example, with us, it's so easy to get viral overnight. Or maybe it's not easy, but we see it happen so often that we think it is easy.
We think it's more often than it really is in reality.
We think we just want to start something, we want to get viral overnight, we want everyone to hear about it, and there, job done. But we've quickly learned, and we knew this all along, but being involved in this right now in particular, by, like I said, having this podcast really teaches you that it needs to come from a place of passion. You need to be passionate about something, whether it is the podcast or a job or a relationship. And if your passion, and ultimately your passion will dictate your actions, right? So if you're going to be passionate about something, you're going to put in the actions to work towards something, and things will happen for you eventually, right? If you really trust that what you're doing is right for you, things will eventuate.
Yeah, I think it's either it's like if you're consistent enough with anything, you will become successful at it, because it sounds like a motivational trope, but it's true. You can only give up at a certain point. But if you remain consistent and you remain patient, that is probably one of the best attributes you can have in anything. Whether it is the podcast, whether it is something you do in business, whether it's something you do in your relationships. Yeah. Not always looking that you need to blow up overnight, knowing that things take time. Things need to take a lot of pain and a little bit of blood, a little bit of sweat and tears for you to get a result. That means getting comfortable with being patient. Yeah. It means not always having to be comfortable and feeling good, because you're so results oriented that, if you don't blow up overnight, what you're doing is a failure. You need to get comfortable with the journey ahead, I reckon. And that's a really nice lesson there.
Exactly. Because we just think life is so linear. We really think everything... We think you're going to start something, you're going to do it for, a couple of months, you're going to build, you're going to get higher and higher and higher up the pecking order, and eventually you're just going to blow up. That's not how life works. Life is not fair that way. Otherwise, it would be easy for everyone to be successful. things ebb and flow, and realizing that your passions will come to fruition eventually. I think that is the most important mindset to have. So be patient. Don't put a timeline on things. I think timelines really destroy us and destroy our ability to stay present in the moment.
That's a big word, destroy.
Yeah, I think they do. I think we spend so much time thinking about goals, which are so important. I love goals. I love setting goals. I think goals are a great driving force to actualize something and to work towards something. But the dangers I think goals can sometimes have is saying, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z by X, Y, and Z. And I understand why we put a deadline on a goal, because it makes us hold accountability. We have to be accountable to that goal. But having that timeline can also negate how we feel in certain moments, can negate our presence, our dedication to the task. And once we reach that timeline that we've set, that deadline, if things haven't been achieved yet, all of a sudden we feel like, what was the point? We didn't achieve the goal and we're a failure. And that's where I think the element of destroying comes into it.
So tell me, how do we navigate this world where we do live by timelines? We live by deadlines, and you're saying that timelines can destroy that element of patience and that commitment. So how do we navigate both of those things? Because we can't scrap timelines, but we still don't want them to kind of impose themselves on our goals.
I think entering whatever it is, whether it is a certain goal, job, relationship, whatever it is that you're working towards, that might have a timeline or deadline to it in your mind. Just acknowledging that, okay, like whether it is a task at work and you need to do something by that certain deadline, if you don't meet it, it is okay. Reminding yourself that all you're doing is what you can do. You're doing things to the best of your abilities, and what will be, will be. Okay. I think setting a certain expectation is what can be dangerous and what can dictate whether we feel happy and proud about ourselves or whether we really just feel like we're a failure. So remove those expectations if timelines do exist, and just control what you can do in that moment and go on from there, one foot in front of the next.
I like that whole idea about personal control. It's kind of a common theme here, I feel like, with our podcast. We love preaching that free will.
Well, I think it's just, I even just by, studying what I'm studying, like physiotherapy, which I absolutely love, but, working towards timelines is such a common thing. Like achieving certain things by a certain time is such a common thing. And it can, like I said, just sometimes things don't need a timeline. Sometimes things just need time rather than a deadline. And
I like that. Some things just need time rather than a deadline.
Just be patient, be present, and just trust what you're doing in that moment will lead to something greater eventually, whenever that is.
Love it.
Alrighty. That's enough from me, I reckon, for now, for absolutely reeling off rambling nonsense.
It's been good. I like it.
I think it. So 1 from me, don't be a victim. 2 from me, be patient. Your first lesson was don't get involved in drama. Hit us with your second, mate.
My second one is that life and death, death can come creeping quickly. It can come, it's life, you're not that far away from death, unfortunately.
All right.
Sorry, I couldn't get my words out with that.
Dumb that down. So what's the second life lesson in one sentence?
Life lesson is life is fragile. So make the most out of it. Up until I was 18, I never witnessed or was around death, or, whether my relatives had passed, the ones that my grandmother from both sets of parents, they only passed a few years after I turned 18. So up until then, I was never really exposed to that sort of grief and that sort of exposure that, although I knew life is limited, I never actually experienced it firsthand. So I thought it's just something that when you're elderly, you go through. But when I was 20, I lost one of my best mates to an illness, and he was battling since kind of the latter ends of school. And when that happened, the one thing it taught me is that, your life is a gift. Your health is a gift. Everything else that isn't compromising your health, your safety, it has to be a second priority. And I know it sounds like a bit of an extreme statement to say, but it's true. You know, the spilt milk, your bad mark on an assessment, the little stupid summer fling you had, that's not going to matter if your health isn't in order. You need to make sure that your health is in order to make sure that at the very least you're able to live a great and fulfilling life, because it is fragile. And even if you do live a really healthy life, and this is a really scary point to make, freak accidents can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So no, tomorrow is never guaranteed. And I think the sooner I got that understanding, the more it kind of just it was just perspective, really. It gave me more perspective at a young age, and I'm really glad that I obtained it. Unfortunately, it was a shit way to have experienced this, because, you know, you lose such a good friend, you lose your relatives, and for 18 years you're kind of a bit oblivious to the fact that, you know, death is a universal thing. It's going to happen to each one of us. But for it to kind of like sink in at 21, 22, now I'm 23, it really does help me come to terms with things. I don't stress about stupid, mundane things as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I still do. But I always, you know, in the back of my mind, I always ask myself, on my deathbed, am I going to care about this? And 95% of the time, say 99% of the time, the answer is no, I won't care. And that tends to help me navigate those stupid, you know, spilt milk issues, I call them.
Just like what links back to your first lesson about not getting involved in petty drama.
100%. And how many times have you found yourself getting so fixated on something stupid, and then, you know, you may have spent maybe longer than you would have liked just fixating, ruminating on something annoying that's happened to you in that day. Similar to the whole thing about not playing a victim. But then it's past, and you start thinking about it, and you get angry at yourself because you devoted so much cognitive time and emotion to thinking about something that is not going to have a bearing on you tomorrow or the next day.
No, exactly right. It's so important, and yeah, like you said, it's unfortunate that it had to come to that realization from experiencing something so terrifying and tragic. But, you know, I think these are the beautiful life lessons sometimes that we can take from tragic scenarios. And yeah, it's the earlier we really wrap our heads around concepts like that in life, the more life will be appreciated, and the more you'll get out of life, and the more you'll want to be urgent with your life. Because that's another key point is the urgency, and that comes from realizing that life is fragile, right? And, you know, the next time you leave the house at night and mum says, be careful or drive safely, appreciate those words.
100%.
Listen to those words, because, you know, oftentimes, like, I hear that all the time from my mum. She'll always tell me that. And, you know, sometimes it's just something that you hear, and you hear again, and you hear again. But those words are really meaningful from the perspective of a parent. Life is fragile. You don't know what can happen when you get on the roads. So,
and I think
honor those words, and be careful, be safe.
No, and that's the thing. We'll watch the news, we'll see something tragic that's happened, and I think just in the back of our heads we'll say, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I just know it won't happen to me. It's a freak accident.
It just seems so foreign.
And unfortunately it's not. You know, all it takes is one really tragic thing to happen. And yeah, that kind of links to my third and final point, is the idea of be urgent. Don't waste time, just start. And the idea there is pretty much self-explanatory. Life is short, so you got to start as soon as you can. Don't think about what you have to do, just do it. So this had a profound effect on me when I was 20. So when I did lose one of my good mates, and I felt that up until that point, I didn't have that perspective. I felt like I was almost like sleepwalking through life. This was also a time when that happened. It pretty much taught me to be urgent with everything I do in life. Not everything, but like, for example, at the time I wasn't studying my desired course at uni, and I told myself, you know, we got to start getting some wins on the board here. Let's transfer to psychology. And did that, transferred in, and I said, okay, how can I build up like my resume as as someone who wants to be in this industry? I started taking on relevant jobs in that industry that I would know would, like, for example, support my kind of resume as like a psychology student, right? And the reason that that's significant, and the reason I'm saying what I mean by being urgent in this situation is that for about a year, I was like delaying all of that. I'll say it'll happen when it will happen. I say I've got tomorrow to do it. I've got tomorrow to do it. And up until then, I had just probably just realization that you got to just be urgent. You got to accelerate something, because time is flying really quickly. As you get older, every year just seems to fly by quicker and quicker, and it's not getting any slower. So I thought, got to start being urgent with those things. Another thing that happened around this time regarding not just wasting time and not thinking that tomorrow there'll be a given day is, if you don't remember, maybe like 10 episodes ago or however long ago it was, when I spoke about like my first breakup and how that left me feeling really cynical and how I didn't like that, but I was letting it kind of control my decisions on whether I date someone long term or anything like that. It was also around this time when I just said to myself, life is too short. We've got to be a little bit not urgent, but don't waste time holding on to those cynical views.
Yeah.
Give love or give another partner another chance. So that's when I felt like I kind of opened up myself personally to just decide, life's short. Let's make the most meaning in your life. That might mean giving another relationship a chance, or dating again, or something like that. And that's one of the things that people on their deathbed do talk about, are the personal relationships. So getting good at relationships, not just, turning myself into a hermit, and locking myself in a room and saying, nah, I'm going to be cynical. I decided, nah, you gotta have a little bit of urgency. You gotta click into gear, realize life is short. So that's my third and final life lesson. So just to cap up for me, first life lesson is don't get involved in drama. Number 2, life is fragile. Number 3, be urgent. Don't waste time. Just start.
I love that, mate. And I really like that, because I think your life lessons really just emphasize the personal, they're all personal development type mindsets. They're not like materialistic ones like, all right, get that car, or, work towards getting that dream house, like saving up money to get that dream house, because sometimes we think, early 20s, we got to start saving up. We're so money oriented. Like, where is my life going, and where can I put my money to work towards like potential material items to set me up for the future? But, you've strayed away from that here. And I think that really just speaks volumes about the person you are, mate. So thank you for emphasizing all these beautiful points. And I'm sure, a lot of people will take a lot away from that.
And look, that's not to say, like, for example, that I've disregarded the whole importance thing of money or anything like that. But it's one of those things that the way I've gotten my life perspectives, or sound like an old man wisdom, the way I've gotten my own life perspectives, the reality is you listen to those who are older than you. And I mean those who are probably entering kind of the end of life. You listen to what they have to say, because they have some amazing sort of perspectives that will ring true. And they'll often say, they regret working as long as they did, that they didn't spend enough time with family and friends. So I suppose that's probably why I kind of resonate with those sort of life perspectives. But you've got one written down here, Jeremy, and I thought this was like something, I completely agree with it, and it's really nice. I think it's my favorite one that you've written. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so life lesson number 3 that I've learned is appreciate and enjoy the basics. What I mean by that is, look, 90% of life is not being bent in Ibiza with your mates, chasing euphoria and hedonism. That is not 90% of life, unless you're a 7-figure compound sentence, mega wealthy person living in Dubai. Like, that's just not 90% of what life is. Rather, life is, working. It's taking your dog for a walk. It's sitting in traffic.
Sounds like the Matrix, man.
It is. It's it's making eggs on toast in the morning, breathing morning fresh air. Like, it's the mundane things that makes up 90% of life. And I think COVID taught me actually this lesson. Because COVID was a time where we were experiencing a lot of the mundane and just really going through the motions, waking up, whether it's doing like a home exercise program, you know, eating the eggs on toast and sitting around doing a jigsaw puzzle, whatever it was just going through the basics in life. And I think that's one reason why so many people hated COVID, was just because of only experiencing the mundane, not being able to travel, not being able to go to big life events and experience life in its grand scale of what it has to offer. And I feel like life can be really fun by just appreciating the mundane and making the mundane fucking interesting. Like, if you're able to do the mundane and do the basics with passion, you'll be really happy and you'll get more out of life, I reckon. And I definitely felt I was getting more out of life once I adopted that mentality.
That's really beautiful. For you, when you do that sort of thing, is it like a matter of doing like a gratitude journal, or just telling yourself, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that? Or is it more so just observing and being like, yeah, I'm really happy that this is happening? Like, for example, looking forward to your morning coffee. That's something for me that I really get excited about. It's like an ordinary thing, but I get really excited. Maybe because caffeine's a drug. Maybe I'm a little bit addicted, but I'm still rather appreciative of it. Or even like the small things of just getting into bed at night, maybe scrolling through my phone for a little bit, like the simple pleasures.
Yeah, well, I don't think there was, like, I don't honestly do gratitude journals. I think there's a time and place for them, and I think they're wonderful things to do, just not something that I personally do. Maybe I will in the future. But I think for me, it was just through experiencing a lot of the mundane over and over again, but doing it maybe around people that also liked and appreciated it. Like, whether it was just going for a walk through the park, taking in some morning fresh air and turning to each other and being like, mate, like, how fucking good is today? Like, what a beautiful day it is. Like, sun is out, fresh air. And it's just the simple things like good company, things like that. Just when you do it alongside people that also appreciate the simple things, I think that only builds up your personal appreciation for the simple things, because sometimes it's hard to just start appreciating and being all happy and jolly about these little things just from a personal solo perspective. I feel like I started getting more of that when I was surrounding myself around like my friends that were the same in terms of that, like also appreciating a lot of that.
That last point you made couldn't be any truer, because sometimes you'll get so excited about something that is, you know, if in truth it might be mundane, but you're appreciative of it. For example, going on like, whenever you and I go for like a beach walk, right? Go for a Elwood beach walk, and you and I always admire how nice it looks if the weather's great. And I find that if I say it with certain other people, they'll be like, yeah, it's cool, whatever, man. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But with you, I find that you actually appreciate it, and it almost validates how I feel, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting point you made there.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people that can validate your own excitement in the mundane stuff. Even though it's not really that mundane. That's just a marvel of Earth's beauty.
But that's the thing. It is mundane. Like, that's just a lot of what it is. The isness of life is just, you know, like nature and fresh air and whatever it is. And like I remember one of my mates once said to me, like, oh, I think I've mentioned this before, but like, oh, a bird could take a crap and Jeremy would get excited. And like, it's funny, but I think that just shout out Sterling. And I think it just sums it up that like, yeah, like I will get excited over just mundane crap.
Like a bird shitting on you.
Maybe not a bird crapping on me, but like just the mundane, because, you know, that's a lot of what it is. And if you can do that with happiness and with excitement, then the things that are grander in life and are on a grander scale.
Damn, I thought I caught a flea.
Ilan's trying to catch fleas mid-conversation here.
The mundane.
Anyways, the mundane. Yeah, but like I was saying, if you can appreciate the mundane with passion, then you can appreciate the grander things in life with even greater passion. It's like going on a coffee detox for a month or so, and your coffee tolerance is going down, your caffeine tolerance is going down, and then reintroducing a coffee, and then you're like, bang, holy crap, like this coffee is hitting me, and like I'm just feeling invincible. It's like that. So like when you start to just appreciate the basics, once you experience something that is above that level of basic, it's just like a massive experience. It's like, holy crap, this is insane.
I love that, because you're pretty much saying don't wait to get to a certain fun destination to be happy. Allow yourself to be happy in the moment.
Yeah, like we're so used to just chasing the next holiday, chasing the big event, chasing that next trip to Europe, or like party on the weekend, or night out on a Saturday night. We're so used to chasing something or looking forward to something because, yeah, like I get it. Like we love anticipation, but that anticipation can be made even bigger and greater if you just experience fun in just like the normal crap that you're doing in life. And like, you know, like I'm not saying like, oh, be so jolly when you're sitting in traffic for an hour or whatever, because let's be real, everyone hates that. But like, put some good music on, like put a podcast on or whatever.
Maybe put us on.
Just like make the mundane interesting. Do something in that moment that'll make you enjoy it a little bit more, even if it just is a little bit crap. So yeah, I think I was rambling on a little bit there, but it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. So just, yeah, point number 3, appreciate and enjoy the basics.
That's fantastic, Jeremy. I really, really specifically like that life lesson because it's very true. And I remember when I was reading kind of the note about it, you said 90% of life is not being bent in Ibiza with your mates. And it's true. So yeah, I think on that note...
we'll wrap it up. So guys, we hope you enjoyed this. So yep, if we want to just summarize again, Ilan had the points of not getting involved in drama, life is fragile, and be urgent.
Don't waste time.
Don't waste time. And then mine were appreciate the basics, don't be a victim, and be patient. 6 life lessons that we learnt or started to appreciate even more so after finishing school. So we hope you guys can take something from that and take that into your lives as well. If you really enjoyed and you feel like this is something you want to hear more of, let us know. We could always do a part 2 because there are a heap of other things we've also learnt and we would love to share with you guys. So let us know. And if you did enjoy this, give it a like, subscribe, rate it 5 stars if you really do enjoy it, and share it to someone that you think might also like to listen to it.
Sounds good. Nothing else from me, guys. Hope you enjoy the episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.